Hi there, back at the piano. Been away for a little while. We've had a family bereavement, so I've been dealing with that. But really, time to get back to the healing powers of music. And I've been wondering what to do after a little break, how to get my head back into playing the music, playing the piano again. And I thought a really good place to start was that this was a piece that it's not jazz, it's a classical piece. I was given it just before lockdown, not that we knew lockdown was coming, and I had no idea how to approach learning it. I thought it was completely beyond me. But then lockdown came along, and then lots of us, including me, had time on our hands. So I started to learn it, one bar a day to begin with, till I worked out how to do it. Oh, fly. And so I thought I'd revise that, see if I can still play it and make a video about how the piece works, because it's really fascinating and beautiful, mesmerising, healing, joyful, ultimately, piece of music. I wanted to make a video about it, so here it is. So the piece that I'm talking about is China Gates by John Adams, and it was written in 1977. It's, I guess, a minimalist piece. I'm not an expert in this area of music, but I do know that I love it. The music comes with a really helpful graphic at the front that explains the structure of the music. Here it is just now. So this is a picture of, if you imagine, it's a picture of time. So time is running along the bottom of this graphic, and the 4 different levels that the line reaches indicates 4 different moods of the music, or 4 different scales, if you like, that the key's based over. So the first level is the one at the bottom, and it starts, the music is over an A flat mixolydian scale. So this has got all the black notes in it, and it's also got a C and an F natural. It then jumps to G sharp Aeolian. So this has still got all the black notes, but now it's got a really minor sound. So it's the C and the F move to a B natural and an E natural. So that's the 2 states that it sort of oscillates between to begin with. And then it's got a middle section where it moves around between 4 states, including those first two, and then it settles down into the last 2 scales that it uses. And these are the scales F Lydian and F Locrian. So basically the very brightest Lydian sound, which is the final state it ends up in, so it's quite an uplifting mood at the very end. It oscillates between that and F Locrian, which is the really darkest sound, so still F, a scale of F, but with all the notes that you can flattened. So those are the 4 scales that it uses for the different sections of the music, and it spends different amounts of time in each of these scales and sort of swaps backwards and forwards, and this graphic explains really nicely how it does that. So in each section of the music, the 2 hands, left hand and right hand, when you play them separately, they're almost trivially easy. They are both made up of just repeating patterns of notes, small numbers of notes, and simple rhythm in a repeating sharp pattern that just repeats. The complicated bit about playing it and the mesmeric bit about listening to it comes when you put these patterns together, because they usually don't fit. So they phase in and out with each other and just create these amazing colours. I will show you what I mean. Okay, this is the opening part of the piece. As I said, it's in A flat mixolydian, and the right hand has a 7-note pattern. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's all it does. Okay, just again and again. Really easy. Okay, there's almost nothing to practice, right? The left hand has only got 3 notes. D flat, C natural, and A. And its patterns change. So to begin with, it's crotchet, dotted crotchet, crotchet. So that's 7 long. So far so good, that fits in. But then its pattern changes and it moves, shifts where the pattern is. So it now goes crotchet, dotted crotchet, 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 dotted crotchet, sorry. And then it moves to straight crotchets. And then it moves to straight crotchets, alternating with the minims. Which it does 3 times. And then it goes to straight crotchets just on 2 notes. So again, like, what is there to practice? It's really pretty straightforward, but it's mind-blowingly complicated, I found, to put it together. So when I started learning this, I didn't really think I could do it. I just started like one combined pattern at a time. So I'm really, really slowly. So the first one is when the left hand is doing. Here we go. Okay, and that's the first 3 bars. So when this all comes together, the effect that I was trying to create, and if you go on YouTube, there's different versions of it. Not everybody plays it like this, but the effect I wanted to create was one of complete uniformity between the 2 lines. So left hand and right hand totally equal, and also uniformity of the notes within the lines. So no note is prominent. And the beauty and the shape of the music comes through the changing colours as we shift through the different keys or modes of the music. And in order to achieve that uniformity, the only way I could do that was to take it very, very, very slowly to begin with and practice with a metronome always. So I started off, took a little bit of work to see whether the metronome was a quaver or a crotchet, 8th note or quarter note. I settled on the metronome matching the quavers, and just started at about 1/3 of the final speed that I wanted to be able to play at, and just practiced it like that until I had the sounds in my ears. So yeah, really slow practice, just until I learned what the patterns were, and gradually you start to hear them. You just know what it sounds like, and then you play what's in your ears. And the other thing you probably noticed if you're paying attention there, some of the notes clash. So the right hand and left hand play the same notes at the same time. So I had to work out what to do about that. And I think in that case, the pedal is your friend. Now it's marked as pedalled throughout. Sustained pedal just is on. And then the sounds kind of build up and start to ring out. So the pedal is definitely your friend, so you can play the notes quite quickly and get out of there and use the pedal to sort of mask the fact that you're not quite as legato as you might like to be, to make the notes sustain properly. So yeah, that was a good one. Then I think the most important kind of breakthrough moment that I had, the light bulb moment, if you like, learning this, was to realise that all the sections come in pairs. So the graphic that I showed you, so it starts off with 2 long sections and then 2 shorter sections and then 2 shorter sections again, and so on. And each of these pairs of sections are, in the left hand, they are rhythmically and also melodically mirror images of each other. So the left hand rhythm that you play in section 1 is then played backwards in section 2, and this made it much easier to learn once I'd realised that that basically there's only half as much stuff to learn. Also melodically, the notes, not exactly the notes, but in terms of whether they're ascending or descending, they're going up or down in intervals, the first section is a mirror image upside down from the second section. So in the first section, if an interval descends, in the second section it ascends. So the back to front and upside down, back to front rhythmically and upside down melodically, I just thought that was fascinating. I love how structured it is, but when you're listening to it, you don't care. Like, you don't know that that's the case. It just sounds beautiful, but that beauty comes from this incredible structure, which is amazing. Okay, so learning that stuff. So lockdown, we've all kind of forgotten or tried to put it out of our minds by now, I think. I know I have. It was really long. So yeah, I had loads of time to learn this. So it took about 8 months, and I played it as a warm-up for my piano practice every day. 20 minutes, set the timer, just do the next little bit of learning for this 20 minutes every day for 8 or 9 months. So yeah, I started at the beginning of lockdown, and then by autumn it was gradually seeping in there, in that I'd learned the sections. So then the next challenge was putting the sections together, and that's really where I think I am again now, having not played it for a while. I want to relearn it. So I understand it, I know what the individual sections do, and the challenge is to be able to go back and play it fluently again. The transitions between the sections are the most difficult things to get right and to remember. And the other challenge of it is just concentrating for long enough to play it. It's very mesmerising. It's very easy to float off into a little world where you're not quite sure what you're thinking about, but whatever it is, it's not what you're playing, and then you just forget what to play. So staying focused, it's a really good act of meditation, mindfulness, really. So that's what my week is going to be now. Spending some time playing this beautiful piece. I'm going to, in order to learn the sections again and how to put them back together and make sure I know the transitions between the sections, I'm going to start at the end and take the last section, make sure I know that, and then add one section on at a time, going back to the beginning, and then hopefully by the end of the week I've got back to the beginning and I can play the whole thing. So see how this goes. So this is the last double section I'm practicing, and I'm doing it at 168 notes a minute, which is quite a bit slower than I'll ultimately play it. But yeah, slow is how to learn it, I think. Okay, back on China Gates, day 2, revising it. I'd forgotten how beautiful it is. It's really so lovely to play. So, still working on putting together it section by section. Really, the kind of big architecture of this is in 3 sections. It's like a sandwich. The first and last sections, the bread of the sandwich, they both have these big pedal notes in the left hand, which are held throughout each of the smaller sections that make up the big bit of bread, if you like. So I'm working on the last of these sections, so the final little bit of bread that goes on top of the sandwich, so the last of the 3 big sections. Mostly working on the transitions between the smaller sections, so when the height of the line changes, so when it moves from one mode to another, just checking how the transitions work, the amount of rest that I get in the left hand. The right hand tends to keep going with continuous quavers or eighth notes, and the left hand has different amounts of rests in between the transitions. So I'm just checking that I've got those all perfectly accurate. And then just more slow work putting it together, starting at the end, working backwards. So here we go. Okay, so this is the last bit of bread, the beginning of the 3rd section, as shown in this graphic. It's made up of a 7-note repeating pattern in the right hand. Just goes like that, and then the left hand has It's built on the F Locrian scale, so it's going. So that's the whole thing. That's the first bit of this section. It's the shortest pair. And then the whole thing is put together. It starts off with a pedal in the left. That's the end of that section, and then it does the same in reverse. So because we had a whole minim rest in the left hand, it starts off with a whole minim rest in the left hand because the rhythm's going backwards. Next section. Okay, so the left hand is rhythmically the reverse of the previous section. The right hand is simpler that time, that's just a 3-note repeating pattern. Okay, day 3, still with Adam's China Gates. Remember I said the structure was like a sandwich with 2 bits of bread and the filling. And the 2 bits of bread, those sections both have big pedal notes underneath. So I'm going to stick with the bread sections. I'm going back to the first one of these, and we're going to work on that again, starting from the end of this section and putting all the shorter bits together until I can play it straight through. So starting at the end of the first bit of bread of the sandwich, the last section is short, it's only 4 bars long. The right hand has got, it's just 4 notes that are perfect fourths apart, and it's a 7-note pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or if you want to start at the beginning of it. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's the right hand. Now I can't reach all those notes, that's a minor 10th apart, and I can almost reach them, but not so that I won't strain my hand when I'm playing. So thank goodness for the pedalling marks that mean that there's just one pedal all the way through, just keeping it nice and legato. There's the A flat in the left hand right at the beginning. So the last of those black notes I want to play with my second finger because I'm where I'm heading, which is the very first of the F Lydian sections. There's a really nice colour contrast there. So I'm going to practice that now with a metronome. There's a really nice little bit that both hands play a C sharp together towards the end of that, just halfway through the 3rd bar. So that's going to be a really nice marker so that I know that I'm in the right place there. So. There. So that's nice.
Right, still on with revising China Gates by John Adams. I'm quite pleased with how it's going so far. When I started looking at it again, I had almost no recollection of, I was obviously knew how it sounded, but I couldn't remember any of the patterns or any of how I'd gone about learning it, but I'm quite pleased with how quickly it's come back. So today, I remember the sandwich structure, so we've looked at the 2 bits of bread so far. Today I'm going on to look at the filling, which is the middle section of the piece, and this is when it moves more rapidly between the different colours, the 4 different scale modes that we have for the piece. The middle section is also different in that it doesn't have the deep pedal notes in the left hand that are sustained during each subsection. It's got just continuous quavers, eighth notes, if you like, in both hands together. And again, each hand is almost trivially simple, so practicing hands separate is almost pointless. I mean, you look at it to see what the repeating patterns are in each hand, but once you've realised you've got like 5 notes in a sequence that just goes again and again, there's not very much to practice really. So it's putting it together and looking at how the right hand and left hand sequences fit together, and realising how these sort of go in and out of phase is the interesting part of learning this. So I'll break this down for a couple of the different subsections in this part of the music. Here we go. Okay, so the left hand pattern is 5 notes starting on an A flat. That's all it is. Okay, and the right hand has got a pattern 2 notes, then 4 notes. So and so with 6 notes in the right hand and 5 in the left hand, the 2 patterns, the right hand pattern's a little bit longer than the left hand one, so they don't quite fit together. So they fit together like this, or don't fit together like this. Then the left hand stops playing behind, just before the right hand, goes off to find its pedal note down here at the beginning of the next bit of sandwich. So the tricky bit is not playing it. It's fair enough to play this pattern together. Sounds really nice. The tricky bit is not playing it. The tricky bit is knowing when to stop, and particularly when it's at full tempo. You can't really count it. Well, you could count it maybe, but I can't really count it. So the way I've worked out how to do it is just to be really, really aware of the feeling of the left hand. So because the left hand pattern is shorter than the right hand, because it's only 5 notes long, the right hand pattern starts, each time the right hand pattern starts, the left hand pattern is a note further on. So the first time it's at the very bottom. Okay, now the left hand pattern is finished, the right hand has still got 1 more to go. Now the next time, second time round, the right hand pattern is going to start and the left hand pattern is already on its second note, B flat. The third time round, it's on its third note. The fourth time round, it's on the E flat. And then this is the last time when you get to the F, you just play the 4 notes and then in the left hand and then finish off in the right hand. So to keep track of when to finish, all you need to be thinking of is what is the finger in the left hand, what finger is playing at the beginning of the right hand pattern, and once you reach the F, you know it's time to stop. So I didn't quite make it that time. Anyway, that's what I'm practicing. I obviously do need to practice. Okay, another thing that needs a bit of practice in this section is the transitions between the really short sections that make up the bigger sandwich filling section of this piece. So I'm going to play each short section kind of out of time and then just concentrate on what finger I need to be aiming for as I move to the new pattern, as I move from one subsection to another. So here we go. Okay, that seems to be going all right, I think. Time to start putting it all together and playing with a metronome. So just, this is really important, and I think the only way you can get to play it as smoothly as I want to. So there are different recordings of this, people interpret it differently. The different subsections, the shortest sections, and the sections that are in different modes, the different heights of the graph. These are called gates. That's what the name of the piece, China Gates, and in the description, in the introduction, in the music, it talks about transitions between these different gates. So each gate is pedalled, and in different versions, different recordings of it, some people pause slightly or slow down slightly for each transition. I'm not going to do that. My interpretation of it is that it just flows in one continuous sound, really, and the colours shift as the patterns and the scales from which it's made up change underneath your hands, but it's moving past at a constant speed. So I think the only way to get that effect is always practice with a metronome, and that's what I did when I first learned it. So I started off, so the final tempo, it's marked minim, so it's half note equals 72. Now I couldn't practice with the metronome on a minim because of the different patterns of different lengths. I needed it to be the smallest subdivision of time in the piece, which is the quaver or the eighth note. So minim equals 72 gives you eighth note is 288, which is pretty fast, and in fact a lot faster than my trusty metronome. There it goes. The fastest tick on my metronome is 208. So anyway, I started learning this once I could play it. I mean, once I had the notes in my fingers, started playing it at 160 eighth notes a minute, BPM, and put it up 2 ticks a day. So yeah, you can do the math, how long it took me to get it up to full speed. So I'm not going to go back to that speed just now. Here we go with quaver equals 208, and I'll be gradually turning that up with the target tempo of half note 72 beats a minute. Okay, today is some serious metronome work. I'm starting off at the kind of beginning practice tempo of around 200 clicks. That's clicks are quavers or eighth notes. And I want to see if I can get it up to a target of 280. So I'm going to move that up in 5 clicks at a time, but starting off at 200, which sounds like this. Okay, that's a good place to start. So this metronome work feels really, really useful. First thing that is good for it is to make sure that there's no changes of tempo for each of the transitions between the subsections. So that's really obviously important. The other bit is there's just a couple of little bits where the patterns themselves kind of encourage you to speed up. It's a little, I think about it like, sometimes on the motorways you have these stripes painted to make you slow down. The stripes get closer and closer together. It gives you an impression of speeding up, so you slow down even more. There's a couple of bits like this where the patterns give you the impression of slowing down, so it's kind of the other way around, so it makes you speed up. So there's one bit particularly is really important. The metronome brings that out, and the way I've found to combat that when I'm playing without the metronome is just to really focus on my breathing, take it slowly during the bit that I'm inclined to speed up. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so in the section, the right hand is doing a pattern of 3, like that, and the left hand has got a pattern of 4, which is repeated 3 times, and then a pattern of 3 repeated 4 times, then a pattern of 2 repeated, yeah, you guessed it, 6 times. The 6th one is not played, but in my head I'm counting to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 is a rest, but there's 6 beats to count. So if you put those together, it's really easy to go from and because the underlying beat is going from 4 to 3 to 2, kind of natural to speed up. So metronome practice really makes that not happen. Okay, here's that full section. So the hopefully not speeding up bit right at the end. Okay, I'm up to 240 beats a minute now. This is interesting, going through the metronome markings quite rapidly. So when I was learning this, like first time round, I went up 2 clicks a day. So the transition from slow to the right speed was very, very gradual. Here, because I kind of know it and I'm just revising it, I'm going through all the clicks just because I can play it all right at the full speed, but I'm just trying to really consolidate it. And it's interesting seeing what the different practice speeds do. So at a really slow speed, it's actually harder to remember, and I think that is because I'm having to use my conscious memory. So this is really good, like putting it in the conscious recall, and that needs to be there because whenever you get when you just drift off and you're thinking about what you're having for lunch, and then you go, oh, where am I? You need to have it in your conscious recall so that you know where you are and you can then be in the right place and play the right note. At faster speeds, it's in, I think, what is referred to as muscle memory, but obviously muscles don't actually have memories because, not brains. But it's in your unconscious recall. So you need to have both of those there, just belt and braces to maximise your chances of actually remembering the thing. It's also important to practice it at really slow speeds to get the very, very tight rhythm. I'm not sure whether I really pull it off, but that's what I'm aiming for. That's why I'm doing slow speed practice. But this high speed practice is needed as well for it. There's just a couple of corners. Mostly it's technically fairly straightforward, but there are a couple of corners where there's a leap in the right hand, and the very most difficult thing is quite close to the end, where there's actually a leap in the right hand at the same time as your left hand is away off down the bottom of the keyboard. So that's quite a good one to kind of choreograph beforehand. Where do I need to be looking to make sure that I can hit the left hand note, which is 4 octaves below where the right hand is playing, and also make the right hand leap at the same time. So it's kind of checking out where I'm moving to in advance and then getting the geography of the keyboard into my head before I have to do it all at the same time, and so that does need to be practiced at full speed. So it's interesting taking it up through all the tempi in one day. Okay, here comes the leap that I was just talking about. I'm going to practice this at full speed. I'm now up to 280, so here comes the metronome, and practice just getting the geography of the keyboard in place before I actually have to do the leap. So the couple of seconds before, just looking at the keyboard, making sure I know where the notes are that I'm about to play. Right, here comes the metronome. Okay, I think I got it. A couple of dodgy bits. Didn't quite make the leap at the end as well as I'd hoped. It needs more practice. I need to practice it softly as well. This makes it even harder. The bit in the middle, it almost got away from me because I started thinking, oh, I'm doing quite well. I've got this far without making any mistakes. And then I lost my concentration. So yeah, that's the hardest bit about playing this, is staying focused. I can do all the individual bits, sort of. Put them all together and just stay. It's over 5 minutes long. That's a long time to concentrate. Anyway, it's really beautiful. Love playing it. It's sort of like active mindfulness. Anyway, I think you can hear the birds on the recording as well. It's a nice sunny day. I should probably go out in it.